material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Once again, thank you very much for joining the call today, and I welcome all of you to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Let us move to our next session, which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. May I know who all have joined the call this morning?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Arvind Daksdas from Chicago. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Arvindaksha Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Priti Dasi from Charlotte. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Preeti Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Ohio. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji. This is Kaumadi Kitasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all glories to all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kaumadi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Narmada Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. My respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis on this call. I am Deepika Keni from Mumbai.
Hare Krishna, Deepika Keni Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else in the call who would like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. This is Radharani Devidasi from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Radharani Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumar Devidasi from London.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ananda Priya Narmada Devi. Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Shamaguri Devidasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Shama Gauri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devidasi from Meghalaya.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji has not joined yet. So
Yes, Mataji. Shall we keep chanting Mataji by the time?
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare
Yeah,
Hare.
Mataji,
Yes, Mataji.
we can have introduction.
Yes. Mataji, please take over for introduction. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. His Grace Braj Mohan Prabhu is a monk, a life coach, and an inspirational speaker. Prabhuji is a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami and a resident monk at ISKCON Chowpatty in India. He is a student's mentor at the Indian Institute for Technology in Bombay, where he also earned a B.Tech degree. Prabhuji has a Master's of Science degree in quantum physics from the University of Illinois, Chicago. Braja Mohan Prabhuji has given seminars on science, spirituality, leadership, relationships, and self-development. He has been speaking on various topics at prestigious universities and at several corporations in the US and India for over a decade. Using ancient wisdom for current dilemmas, his message inspires the audience to think deep, act right, and live full. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
I think Prabhuji still did not join. Don't see him.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare. Mataji, Prabhuji join Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call today. We are very fortunate to have His Grace Braja Mohan Prabhuji on the call to enlighten us on the topic Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 10th chapter, 1st and 2nd sloka onwards. Thank you, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Please take over the call, Prabhuji.
Thank you. We'll just sing short Jai Radha Madhav before we begin. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodarandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, Prabhuji, now you are visible. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 5th Canto, Chapter 10, the discussion between Jada Bharata and Maharaj Rahuguna. Since this is in the prose format, I'll just read out the prose as it is, but then in non-event translation, we'll take the way I have put it up on the slide. Shri Shukauvacha Atasindhu Sauvirapati Rahuganasya Vrajata Ikshumatyastati Tatkula Patina Shibika Vaha Purushan Vashena Samaye Dhaivat Swadijavarat Palabda Esha Piva Yuva Samhanango Hokaravadhuram Vodum Alam Iti Purva Vrishti Grihitai Sahaghrihita Prasabam Atat Arha Uvaha Shibikam Samanubhava. The translation as goes. While the king of Sindhu and Suvira, Rahugana, was traveling on the bank of the Ikshumati river, and the leader of his palanquin bearers was searching for an extra bearer, by chance they came upon Bharata, best of the Brahmanas, best of the Brahmanas, who had arrived there, Upalabdha. He was well nourished. Young and strong like a bull or donkey. Thinking that he was suitable to carry the load, Bhuram, they forcibly engaged that great devotee Mahanubhava, along with other carriers who were also engaged by force. The great devotee, though not proper for such a job, carried the palanquin of the king. She became Uvaha. We also take the next verse to this chapter. Yada hi dvijavarsheshu varyeshu matravalokanogate nasamahita purushagates tada visama. Tada vishamagatam sushivakam rahoguna upadharya purushan adipahata ahate vodara swadhyati kramata kim iti vishamam uhiyate yanamiti. When the movements of the bearers became disarrayed because Bharata moved only after looking 3 feet ahead, the king realized that the palanquin was moving irregularly. He spoke to the men carrying the palanquin. O carriers, walk correctly. Why is the palanquin moving unevenly? Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. Although Jadabharata was forced to carry the palanquin, he did not give up his sympathetic feelings toward the poor ants passing on the road. A devotee of the Lord does not forget his devotional service and other favorable activities, even when he is in a most distressful condition. Jadabharata was a qualified Brahmana, highly elevated in spiritual knowledge. Yet he was forced to carry the palanquin. He did not mind this, but while walking on the road, he could not forget his duty to avoid killing even an ant. A Vaishnava is never envious or unnecessarily violent. There were many ants on the path, but Jadabharata took care by looking ahead 3 feet. When the ants were no longer in his way, he would place his foot on the ground. A Vaishnava is always very kind at heart to all living entities. In his Sankhya Yoga, Lord Kapiladev explains, Surada Sarvadehina. Living entities assume different bodily forms. Those who are not Vaishnavas considered only human society worthy of their sympathy. But Krishna claims to be the supreme father of all life forms. Consequently, the Vaishnava never takes care not to annihilate. Consequently, the Vaishnava takes care not to annihilate untimely or unnecessarily any life form. All living entities have to fulfill a certain duration for being engaged in a particular type of material body. They have to finish the duration allotted to a particular body before being promoted or evolved to another body. Killing an animal or any other living being simply places an impediment in the way of his completing his term of imprisonment in a certain body. One should therefore not kill bodies for one's sense gratification, for this will implicate one in sinful activity. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Welcome all the devotees to the Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call, and we are starting a new chapter today about an exciting event that had occurred in the life of Bharat Maharaj and Maharaj Rahuguna. Let's go through the verse once again so we can zoom in to the whole verse and what exactly the verse is teaching to us and what Srila Prabhupada is commenting. Ata Sindhu Sauvira Pate Rahuganasya. So there was the king, Rahugana, was the king of Sindhu Desh, which is currently Punjab, and Sauvira. Sauvira is Gujarat, which is also called as Saurashtra. So practically from Gujarat till Sindh, which is currently Pakistan major part, the whole land, he was the Pati, he was the king of the land. Sindhu Sauvira Pate Rahuganasya. And where was he going? He was traveling on the bank of a river, Vrajata Ikshumatas Matyastate. He was traveling on the bank of Ikshumati river. In the olden times, whenever people had to journey, the most common path was along the path of the river. Because first of all, the you can get water source all the time whenever you need water. Otherwise, if you're lost in the jungle, then you don't know. And another is when you're following on the bank of the a river, then you won't get lost because you will meet someone or other that is that comes to drink water there. And also it is on the banks of the river, which is usually the shortest route from one point to another point. Of course, the river sometimes may take turns here and there, but it usually flows to whichever is the lowest, the least denominator. Even when the olden times, when people had to go to Vrindavan, they used to use like Radhanath Maharaj. He explains that how he had come to the Vishram Ghat in Mathura, and then just walking along the bank of the river, he reached Vrindavan. And also in now the yogis, now and all the time, the yogis, instead of walking on the bank of the river, what they do is they they take a subtle form and they enter into the river. Say in Badrinath, they enter into the Mandakini Ganga, Alakananda, and then they come out during the Jagannath Rath Yatra time in the Shweta Ganga, or when there is the time for the Kumbh Mela, wherever the Kumbh happening, they appear there. So the banks of the rivers have always been used to travel. So therefore, he was also traveling on the banks of this Ikshumati river. I exactly don't know where, what river is that Ikshumati river. If any of you have an idea, I couldn't. I tried to search. I couldn't find where is Ikshumati river. If any of you know about this, then please text on the chat. Okay, it's a river that flows near Kurukshetra. Somebody messaged me that it's a river that is flowing near Kurukshetra, and logically it seems very apt. He was in that area, so somewhere near Kurukshetra, as he was traveling. And how was he traveling? He was traveling on a palanquin, Tat Kulapatina. So Ikshumatya on the bank of the Ikshumati river. The leader of the palanquin, Tat Kulapatina, here it is not mentioned that there was a palanquin. It just said Tat, but it is it is understood that if a king is traveling, he travels in a palanquin. Tat Kulapatina, Shibika Vaha, Shibika. Yes. So here is the word for the palanquin. It is the Shibika. Shibika Vaha, Purusha Anveshana Samaye. So he was searching for a Purusha. He was searching for a carrier, for an extra carrier, as he was traveling, as they were traveling. Now the question can be asked that how come till now there was no need for a traveler, and now suddenly there is a need for a traveler. One explanation that is given is that they were crossing the river, and when they are crossing the river, they need more support because everything is damp there near a river. Everything is damp. Another is one of the persons who was carrying the palanquin. He became sick and he couldn't carry anymore. So therefore, there was urgent need for service. Like sometimes it happens in our temples that suddenly somebody doesn't turn up for Aarti, or someone doesn't turn up for some seva. Then that Kulapatina, the temple president or the temple commander, the Kulapati, he starts to search who is there, who can do this service. So searching for someone who can assist him in carrying the palanquin. And it is written here, by chance they came upon Bharata, best of the Brahmanas. Devena upasadita sa Dvijavara. It was by providence, by Lord's arrangement, that they found this best of the Brahmanas, Dvijavara. Now, you must all have read till now that how Bharat Maharaj, he was born in a Brahmana family, but he was hardly following any of the Brahminical principles of cleanliness, and how the entire Brahmana community practically exiled him from being close to them. The brothers didn't want to do anything with the father also, and the entire community, they just abandoned him. But still, from the eyes of the Shukadeva Goswami, Shri Shukavacha, here he is addressing Jadabharata as the best of the Brahmanas, because Brahma Jata Janati iti Brahmana, or as the shloka says, Kalo Shudra Sambhava, not Kalo Shudra Sambhava, Janmana Jayate Shudra Samskara Bhaje Dvija. That by the purificatory ceremonies, one becomes twice born. Then Veda Patan, so when one reads the Vedas, then he becomes what is that? A Pandita, and Brahma Janati ti Brahmana. And once one knows what is the ultimate purpose of reading the Vedas, to know the Supreme Lord, he becomes the highest of the Brahmanas. And herein, because Jadabharat had realized the Supreme Lord, and therefore he was not focusing on any other thing. He is definitely Dvijavara. Externally may not be appearing. And such a soul who is completely at the will of the Supreme Lord, he is being directed to this occasion. The difference between a conditioned soul and a liberated soul is that the conditioned soul has a lot of conditions in which in how he will obey the Supreme Lord's orders. Say there is prasadam being served. So for the conditioned soul, if the prasadam is very tasty, he will be eager for that prasadam. If there is pizza, if there is some nice kachori or samosa, or there is sweet rice, then will be very much hankering for that prasad. But if the same prasad is not tasty, or is something that he doesn't like, then he won't be eager for that prasad. But whereas a liberated soul, somebody who is on the highest level, he doesn't see the external form of the food item. He just sees that how this is the remnants of the Supreme Lord, how the Lord is so mercifully given him these remnants, and he honors those remnants. Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmane Vaishnave. That Mahaprasad of Supreme Lord Govind and the holy names of the Supreme Lord and the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Swalpa Punya, that even if you have slight affection for these in the right spirit, Vishwaso Nevajai, that with such a faith in these personalities, we honor the Mahaprasad. So Daivena Upasadita, so being guided by the Supreme Lord, which Prabhupada also mentions, and the particular translation which I put up is that of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. So by chance, even when Narada Muni comes to meet Dhruva Maharaj, the similar verse is used, where Yadrichaya, that somehow by chance Narada Muni came there, and that Yadrichaya is not chance, but it is the Ichha of the Supreme Lord. So one can only meet the Guru by the desire of the Supreme Lord. As we know that Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Rata Beach, Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev. So in the Brahmanda Brahman, we are all roaming, and somehow by chance, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, one gets Guru, and by the grace of the Guru, one gets Krishna. So recently, I think a few days back, when in our Brahmosam festival, there was this cycle that was being told by one of the devotees, that when there is Vaishnav Kripa, then there is when there is Vaishnav Seva, then there is Vaishnav Kripa. And when there is Vaishnav Kripa, then there is Krishna Seva. And when there is Krishna Seva, then there is Krishna Kripa. And when there is Krishna Kripa, then there is Vaishnava Seva. So in this way, what is the benefit of serving devotees? What that we get more service. So it is written here that upalabdha, that he became available. That this is a word that we use. He arrived there, or he became visible to this Kulapati who was searching for volunteers. And as you know, trying to find volunteers in for our services is always a challenge. One South Indian great Acharya, he says that there are three types of servants. One is the Sevaka. Sevaka is one who understands the mood of the Guru, and then he does the service even before it is asked of him. So that is a Seva Bhav. Then there is the English word servant. Servant is not same as a Sevak. Servant is one, when he is told, then he will do it. And then there is the volunteer. Volunteer is one, not when he is told, but when he feels like he will do it. So ISKCON is mostly a voluntary organization, and we all find this difficulty that when there is a need, then the mood is not there. And when the mood is not there, then the need is not there. You want to do some kind of artistic work, but there is no need. There is no project coming up. And when there is that need for that service, then devotees don't turn up because their mood has not come up. So there's always this challenge with us, between the fulfilling the need of the institution and the mood of the individual at that particular time to be able to find. So here he was searching for a volunteer who can help him. And naturally, because according to the service, we naturally look for who is the right candidate. So here it is being explained. Esha Piva Yuva. So he saw this Jadabharat who was Piva. Piva means he was at the peak of his youth. He was very well nourished, and not Hindi or Piva is a peak, not drunk young man, but somebody who was very stout and very strong looking. Naturally, for carrying a palanquin, you need that kind of strength. So he was very well nourished and young. And Jadabharat, he was not that much conscious of his body, was in fact neglecting his body, but somehow that the body of Jadabharat, Bharat Maharaj, was quite stout, was quite strong. And it's also given a comparison. How strong was Jadabharat? Samhanana Ango, that is Anana, is face, is structure, and his Anga, is bodily limbs, were as strong as a go. Go means a bull or a cow, or a karavad or a donkey. So usually bulls and donkeys are used for carrying loads. So therefore, he was as strong as that way. This was the way this Kulapati was seeing Bharat Maharaj. And naturally, we know that when we judge devotees based on their physical attributes, one should not judge a Vaishnava but naturally here he was not at all taking that into consideration. What he was only taking into consideration was who can be a fit candidate for my service to the king. And Dhuram vodum alamiti. That dhura means usually, far. So thinking that if I catch him, he can help me to take this uh, uh, carry palanquin for a long time. What did he do? He went and prasabam grihita. Prasabam grihita is forcibly engaged, and obviously, none of us like to be forced. And many times for services, sometimes there is no one to do, and we are forced to do these services. So similar situation for Bharat Maharaj here, that he was forcibly engaged, prasabam grihita. And sometimes, when we are forcibly engaged in some service, we all have this experience that we do very grudgingly, very uh, in a half-hearted way. We don't put our full heart. That was not the case with Bharat Maharaj. It's not that because he was forcibly, Bharat Maharaj being in the Dvijavara, being in the highest state, he was constantly absorbed in the Supreme Lord. So because he was absorbed in the Supreme Lord, he didn't want to disturb his meditation. Therefore, he didn't. He was not willing to come to do this service. And many times we are not willing to go do service because we want to rest. We are lazy. And Jada Bharat, it was not out of laziness that he was unwilling. It was out of his absorption. And sometimes we also give this excuse that I'm chanting, my rounds are left, therefore I cannot come for service. And but do we actually focus on Krishna, and do we see the service also as Krishna's seva? Here in Jada Bharat, he had already had a bad experience of helping someone and getting lost in that. In the last life, he was Bharat Maharaj. He was a great king, and he had given up everything, and he had gone to the Himalayas to do his tapasya, to do his sadhana, and he came to quite high levels of purity and absorption in Krishna. But then he saw something mundane that was happening near him, that of a deer, uh, of a deer uh, drowning in the small little calf deer drowning in the waters of Kaligandaki river. We had few years back when we visited Nepal. So along the banks of Kaligandaki river, where Shaligram Shilas are formed, there is the exact spot where this incident happened. The river is flowing totally, and the place where he was meditating was just on the banks of the river. As right now, he is at the banks of the river of Ikshvati. In his last life, he was also at the banks of another river, Gandaki. And at that time, there was this sudden emergency that came up in material things, in a material situation, where a pregnant deer suddenly dropped the baby. And if he had not gone to save the baby would have drowned in the waters. But he immediately understands that out of compassion, great compassion, he goes and saves the deer. But then that one act turned into more and more acts of compassion, and slowly that compassion turned into attachment. And then he, remembering the deer, he had died. And in life previous to Jadabharat, he was a deer, and he was always associating with the rishis in the Pulaha ashram, which is also very close by. The next spot that we go in Nepal is the Pula Muni's ashram. That's where Ravana was also born. And so he had kind of had this strong experience that how when you get into material things for a good cause, for a good intention, somehow you get lost in that. And in the last life, it was a life and death situation in last to last life, and he got into, and Prabhupada explains that saving the deer was not the issue. It's for a great soul. If you see somebody else in trouble, it's natural to go want to help them to be saved, because the mother had died, as you see in the picture next to me. But what was the issue with Bharat Maharaj was that he had no association of devotees, and therefore he started to feel that I should take care of the deer a little bit more, because it is too helpless now, and if I leave the deer in this situation, it will die because it can't take food, its mother is not there, and some other wild animal will kill and eat. And as he was spending time with the deer, the nature of anything, especially any new project, any new thing, is that there is a lot of freshness in it. A child, or a new relationship, or a new job, and he started to feel that, because the deer was also taking shelter of Bharat Maharaj so much. It was, she didn't knew practically nothing else but him. And great souls naturally have this great attractive potency with them, because they reflect Krishna's attractive potency. So he slowly started to think more about the deer than his dear Lord Krishna. And that's how his attention from sadhana turned slowly into the deer. And so, so therefore, he was very cautious to not get into. And it is occurring in a similar situation on the banks of a river. So that circumstances were similar, but instead of being a near life and death situation, it was a difficult, it was a austere situation for the palanquin carriers to carry the king with three people. It's impossible to carry unless the one guy holds both of the sides. And usually the palanquins are not small. They one person cannot carry on both shoulders. He'll have to hold both his hands to be able to carry. So he was very reluctant to carry this palanquin, because he didn't want his absorption to be stopped. We should cultivate this quality, especially with our urgency things that come upon our mobiles in the morning, that we should be very reluctant to break our absorption from Krishna and get in and to deal with emergencies or some kind of important works. Better planned in such a way that no emergencies come up in the morning. And this Mahanubhava, this great devotee, he agreed to help in this situation, just like he had agreed 2 lives back to help, although initially unwillingly, but he came there. Saha Purva Vishtigrihitai, along with other carriers who were also engaged by force. So it was not that those who were carrying, the other people that were carrying the palanquin, it's not that they were fully into this service, fully into this job. Even they were Purva Vishti Grihitai, the Kulapati, this commander, this commander in chief of Rahugana, his tactic was to engage people by force into tasks, and in such a situation, there naturally be no harmony, because people are doing this very unwillingly. So, but because he was a king, they had to just do the task well, so they were doing it. That Bhagavatam gives this insight. Saha Purva Vishti Grihita. Even others were Purva. Previously, he had forced someone else to also carry. Maybe this was the role that he had played, that the king might be traveling for long distance, and people were not be capable to hold the king for so long. So maybe in a rotating system that after every 1 hour, he might be searching for a new volunteer to do the service. It happens in temples that okay, somebody has to do prasadam survey. So some people are kept to do prasadam for half an hour, then someone else has to take up that service. So it's not clear here, but seems like that's how he was managing by rotation system and by forcing people using his position. And it's explains Saha. Maybe for the others it was an appropriate place to carry the king, but for Mahanubhava, for this great soul, Atat Arhaha, it was not proper for him to carry uh, Shibikam Uvaha. He is the one who is carrying the Supreme Lord in his heart and he is absorbed in that. But for him to do this menial task, it was not, is something that, like Prabhupada explains this, that Swamiji, why are your disciples carrying you in this Rolls Royce and limousines? And then Prabhupada said that a carrier of the Supreme Lord should be given the utmost respect and utmost honor. And these cars that are made up of tin are not even worthy for the respect that the representative of the Supreme Lord uh, has to get. Even a chariot made of gold is not sufficient. So devotees should always be served, not to be taken service of, especially a great devotee. Sometimes we ask Guru to uh, uh, find some girl or some boy for our children for marriage, or Guru to or senior devotees. Okay, Prabhuji, can you help me get this job or get this project, or can you talk to him? So the mode of someone who is junior is always to assist and serve the superior, not that you go to the superior so that you can use this position to take advantage of. So the Jadabharat, being a great devotee, he should be served and he should be inquired the knowledge, but he was being used for this service. Then we'll go to the next sloka, the second verse. And he was doing it to his best capacity. But yada purusha gati nasamahitaha. And everyone here came with Bharat Maharaj seeing being put into this position by the Sekulapati, and everyone else they were carrying, but there was no resonance, there was no proper harmony among the four carriers. And this is the first effect that happens when we engage devotees by force in services, that there will be some or other mismatch or conflicts that will arise. Apart from the fact that Bharat Maharaj was, because of compassion, there was disturbances. But yada purusha gati na samahita. In their movement, there was no symphony, there was no harmony there. Everyone was going at a different pace. And sometimes in family life also, it happens that somebody wants to go for a 10 days yatra and somebody else wants to go for just 2 days yatra, or somebody doesn't want to go or wants to go for vacation, not yatra. And what is happening, that everybody has their own plans or has their own way of walking, and in the end, who is getting troubled? It is a king who is getting troubled. And Prabhupada also used to say the same way that when the children are not in sync and they are not trying to help each other, like the father is lying and as the children are massaging, they are trying, they think that I'll get more attention, my service will be noticed if I pinch the other side of the father where the other son is massaging my father. So as he is massaging, he silently pinches the other side of the father. And same mentality is with the other son, that he wants to get noticed and he doesn't want to assist the other son, his brother. He wants to get noticed, and then he pinches. And in this way, instead of serving the father, both the children are creating trouble for the father. Therefore, there is a great saying that says that there is no limit to how much one can achieve, a team can achieve, a organization can achieve, if one just doesn't care who gets the credit. And and this self-centered mentality many times hinders our teamwork, our progress. So the teamwork wasn't there here, first of all, because it was being done out of force, uh, and the specifically here the reason being explained. It was mainly because of a devotee, a highly advanced devotee who was in that service. Dvijavarasya anugate. And many times we judge devotees based on their organizational or their skills. That if somebody is a very highly skilled, highly organized in their delivery of speech, in their singing skills, or in their cooking skills, we kind of give high value to them. But if somebody is not skillful, he creates some kind of disturbance, uh, then we find faults with him, or we don't really value him, his intent, his devotion. And same thing is happening here, that Anugate, the Bharat Maharaj, he was not skillful in his walking. And one is that is not his area of expertise, or what he not properly walking. Why was his gati not proper? Because Ishu Matra Avaloka. Because as he was walking, every 3 steps he was looking if there are any ants, if there are any living beings that he will harm. Ishu in Sanskrit means a arrow. Even in the Gita, it says, Ishubi Prati Yosyami Pujara Varisudana. Arjuna says that how can I shoot arrows to them when I am supposed to offer? So Ishu means an arrow, and Ishu Matra means the size of an arrow. And the Prabhupada here in translates as 3 feet. So you can all measure yourselves how much is 3 feet. So that was to be the standard size of the arrow. And that much distance, which is not much if you're standing. So you're just looking few feet ahead of you. That much only your vision as you're walking. And if you look down, your vision will maximum be 3 feet. So he was looking 3 feet, and then he was taking steps, and again he was looking. So there was stoppage, there was breaks in his movement. And apart from those breaks, suddenly if he saw an ant, then he also used to stop suddenly. And because of that, there was great turbulence. We all have experienced turbulence in flights. Some little wave comes and the whole flight shakes. Of course, here Jada Bharat Rahugana had no life danger. He could have just jumped, but in mid-air we can't jump out. So there was turbulence in his journey, and then he spoke about it, because it was happening not just once in a while, but it has become like a pattern where suddenly they used to stop, they used to move, and suddenly they were stopping. Somebody was going ahead. It was quite a distance. It was as if you're driving in a bullock cart, not in a Mercedes. So he spoke to the men, Adivahata Purushan Aha. So he spoke to those who were carrying the palanquin. Hey Vodara, that O carriers, Sadhu Atikramata, that sadhu means correctly or properly. So Kim Vishamam Huyate Yanamiti. So why is my gati, why is my movement going in a disturbed, uneven pace? So he inquires in this way all the palanquin carriers, especially to the Kulapati. So the one who replies to this is actually the one who arranged all these people for taking Rahugana. And Jada Bharat, he is he is more interested to save the ant than to not trouble the king. Because as they say, why does a deer many times outrun the lion in it, or tiger in its chase? Because one is running for its life, another is running for its food. And life is naturally much more powerful impetus than just having food. So here Rahukana was only having some disturbance, external disturbance, but for those ants, they would have died in the month. And Rahu and Jadabharat was seeing both these souls, the Raja and the small little ant, with equal value. He was valuing both the ants and the king. It's not that he wanted to disrespect the king or trouble the king, but then it was not at the cost of killing the ants. And many times, uh, what happens is that he the place where in the future verses it would come, the place where Jadabharat was to meet he was going to the Kapilashkama. He was going to meet Lord Kapil, a rishi. And actually, kings go for hearing spiritual messages, for getting spiritual knowledge. But as he was going, he was still in a material situation. He was looking about comforts and these things, and he didn't expect a highly realized person will come into his way even before he meets a king. So many times we have this that okay, in the temple when I go to the temple I'll get spiritual knowledge there, but then at home or when we are going in a shopping mall or any place, we don't expect spiritual knowledge, spiritual enlightenment to happen there. But this story very specifically shows us that spiritual enlightenment is not reserved to some specific place or for some specific environment. It can happen on the battlefield for Arjuna. It can happen on the on the road. Some little palanquin carrier can give you the spiritual enlightenment. And are we open and looking for the spiritual enlightenment wisdom at every moment of our life, or have we slotted that okay, when my guru comes, then I'll seek spiritual wisdom, but till then I'll deal with everything materially. And if we are in that such a mood, or I'll chant the holy names when I chant in the morning, but the rest of the day I will deal with it materially. And this is often the challenge that we face, that we have slots, we have spaces where we think they are spiritual, but everything else we kind of think they are material, and we have to just ensure comfortable situations in that, and you and being and that situations will take to a spiritual position. And if there is any discomfort in that comfortable situation at our home or at any place, then we start to find blame with that situation, like Rahugana here, rather than trying to see the lesson or the wisdom that is the root cause of this turbulence that is happening in our lives or in the life of Rahugana. And so don't be always looking out for spiritual wisdom like Srila Prabhupada. Sorry. My camera got. Am I visible?
Yes, Prabhuji,
So
visible now.
don't expect that in particular situations only we will get spiritual enlightenment. Spiritual enlightenment can happen in any situation of our life. We should be ready to seek that wisdom, which is what Bharat Maharaj Rahuguna episode is teaching us. So I'll stop here and see if any devotees have any questions about what we discussed today.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. It's a wonderful class, and you explained everything briefly, word by word. Thank you so much. And devotees, if anyone has any questions, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice class. Nicely explained everything. Hare Krishna.
I'm not able to hear.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. It was very important to understand that it's not just, okay, the 2 hours of chanting being a spiritual time and the rest of the day, we can continue to engage in our material activities. So we need to kind of continue that same mood throughout the day. And also the second thing was that was very important was that it is not just in a temple or in a specific place of worship that we can find great souls. They are all around us. So definitely, like how Jada Bharat was found by the river, so in the same way we also need to be respectful to everybody. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for setting the mood right. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada mentions this, that the reason why I have started International Society for Krishna Consciousness is so that people get association of devotees. In our just like Rahuguna had difficulty to identify the Bharat Maharaj as a great devotee, most of us may not be able to really identify. But at least in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, when we meet devotees, everybody has come here and has sacrificed their time and energy to chant and give up so many of the sense gratification that is available for others. So here in the association of devotees, definitely there are gems that we can find that are there. Everybody is a gem, as Prabhupada in New Vrindavan, when they were constructing the palace of gold, they had asked Prabhupada, usually the palaces are studded with gems, so should we get jewels into the palace of gold? And then Prabhupada said that no, my jewels are my devotees. So it is so in his coin, the International Society, we find so many devotees that are there. So that's a great boon. Apart from being in that mood all the time, in ISKCON, definitely there are so many devotees. So that's a boon that Prabhupada gave. Okay, this lot you don't have to kind of doubt all the time. Are they enlightened? Are they in the proper path? Yes, the devotees are seeking shelter of Krishna, and if we associate with them, we'll also get some mercy, some benefit of that. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing that reflection that came from this verse.
Helps a lot.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. Prabhu, you mentioned about being with devotees, and then we can, like, it is easy for us, right? But when we are in when we are at work or when we are at office conditions, wherein we are not dealing with devotees, and yet we are trying to not preach exactly, but at least trying them to understand things, but then their approach is so difficult to for us to understand, that they try to make fun of things just to instigate you. How do we deal with this? Like, just it was the case of Ekadashi, and in my school, like, that day itself, they were just trying to make fun, because they know, like, I am teaching moral science also in class, so they know right things, but then they try to just instigate you by saying, oh, I want to try to eat a rabbit, I want to try to eat a deer. And at that time, trying to control yourself and not trying to get agitated is very hard. I just tried to move out from that situation, but I really had a hard time that day. So what do you want, like, how do you suggest what things can be done with this scenario?
Thank you, Swati Mataji. Brilliant question. And there was one point which I didn't touch upon, is that this is the third scenario which Bharat Maharaj is facing. And we'll know, we'll see that uh, to only to Rahuguna does Bharat Maharaj starts to preach. And before this, in two situations, he doesn't speak at all. First was his family and his society where he was living in, and they were not constantly rebuking him, chastising him for, just like here Rahuguna is chastising Bharat Maharaj, Jada Bharat. Similar chastisement, why are you not properly behaving and all that, had happened when he was in childhood, when he was grown up. They used to keep make him sit like a scarecrow in the fields, so that because they didn't find any other use of him. Uh, but he didn't preach to any of them, to them. Then he was captured by these thieves because they were very stout. He was very stout, and they thought. Then those thieves thought he'll be a very good bali to Mother Kali. And when they brought to offer to Kali, before they cut off his head, Mother Kali came out, and she killed all these thieves, saying that he is a great devotee. Why are you harming him? But he didn't preach even then, when he was being, not just being criticized but being almost killed. He didn't preach. But herein, some stranger who was not really killing him, some not family member who was not troubling him, he started to preach. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, why did he preach to Rahuguna, and why did he not preach to his family or to his enemies? A very pertinent question asked by Vishwanath Chakravarti. And he says that the reason is the family members were very much in Rajoguna, and because they're so much absorbed in passion, and there was no attempt in their lives to seek spirituality. And with the thieves were absorbed in Tamoguna, and they are also not uh, having any kind of spiritual aspiration, or they were not seeking enlightenment. But whereas Rahuguna, although he was a king, although he was in passion, so to say, and although he was covered by this ignorance that is a king, and he was seeing negativity, he was kind of over, little bit overcome by ignorance, mode of ignorance, rajogun, tamogun. But there was that element of sattoguna in him, that he was going to meet a rishi. He wanted to know spiritual wisdom, and because of that reason, Rahuguna started to preach to him, because here is a person who has an opening of Sattva, and therefore he preached to him, and he didn't preach to people who are tamasic and rajasic. And one of the most important decisions we all have to make is, that where do we invest our time and energy. Sometimes we keep preaching to those who are not they just drain our energy. And of course, as a Vaishnava, we try to help everyone. But like Jada Bharat also, we should know where to invest our energy. We should pray to Guru and Krishna to give us that intelligence. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this, that uh, there has to be an element of sattva for someone to understand spiritual knowledge, and through that method we can start to some appreciation, some kind of thing has to be there. Otherwise, like with others, he just did what was needed. Okay, he told them to go and say, the parents told them to go and stand in the middle of the field. He just did his work. He didn't disturb them, nor did he get disturbed by them. So this is one learning that we can take, uh, uh, the way Bharat Maharaj dealt with. How do you protect it? Because one of the most important things is Janma Sardhaka. then kara paropakar. In terms of paraupakar, if you start to spoil your own consciousness, it is not right. But sometimes there are you become so safeguarded that you don't try to help others, so that's also not proper. So we have to see, we have to as Krishna says, dadame buddhi yogam tam, I give the intelligence by which you can give that. Some people just like prasad, so through that you enter their hearts. Some people like kirtan. So some way or other, the way Jada Bharat is teaching us here, we should use the element of sattva-guna in them to make them spiritually enlightened. Okay.
Sure, Prabhu, sure. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful answer. I'll try to implement it. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Right.
Hare Krishna devotees, are there any more questions for Prabhuji or at least realizations?
Prabhuji, I also wanted to thank you because I think because of you, a devotee in Calcutta, they could get the Srimad Bhagavatam. I remember I had approached you on WhatsApp that one devotee from Calcutta wanted the Bhagavatam set, and then you gave a reference, and then they got the Bhagavatams. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the service. Hare Krishna. Thank you all devotees, Shamagori Mataji and everyone else that is sincerely keeping this going to help all the devotees.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji.
And Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the class. Very nice presentation. Hare Krishna.
I think there are no more
End the
questions.
call?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for the enlightening class today. We are really very fortunate to have you. We look forward for your association again in the future. Let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
पतितानां
वैष्णवेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः
Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Braja Mohan Prabhu ji ki jai. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.